I'm Dave, I'm an alcoholic. Yeah, it's a nice legacy to have. Thank you guys. Thanks for being here. Thanks for cheering for me, Don. Thanks, Caleb, for trying to sponsor me. I I didn't know how I would feel sitting here when I sobered up a year ago. A year ago, I thought I could probably white knuckle another year, but my motives and my agendas and what I wanted to achieve with my life was all messed up. So yeah, I could have got here by hanging on and, enduring a miserable life. That's what I thought it would be like, because that was my experience before getting to 1 year. It was miserable, and I wasn't happy, and I had no purpose in my life. Sitting here today, I don't feel like I coined this. It's not like a feeling of what now. It's a feeling of what's next. I can't wait to keep living clean and free like this and see what God has in store for me, because I've never stuck around long enough to find out. And I know this is a one day at a time program, but I really know this is like a long haul thing now. I need to spend the rest of my life building my relationship with God and finding out, what this is all about. Because the truth is, I really don't know. I've been so caught up in my own self-obsession and selfishness that I really couldn't see the woods for the trees. It was all about me, and I couldn't see very further than my own face. And that's slowly changing. And it's because of God. And the only way I can maintain and build a relationship with God is through the 12 steps. My experience, religion can introduce me to a relationship with God, but for me it was never enough to maintain a relationship with God. This is how I do that. That's why I'm sitting here. But the story is a long one, sure. I grew up in a very functional, normal household. I've got two older sisters. My parents are still married after 44 years. Middle class suburbia in Johannesburg. A good life. I went to good schools. My family loved me and they took care of me. But that wasn't enough for me. Standard 6 is where it all changed. Before that I felt confident and popular, and I wasn't self-obsessed or self-conscious. But in Standard 6, all of a sudden the size of my class doubled. I stayed at the same school, but another 60 boys came from all over Johannesburg to my school, my fish pond. But all of a sudden I was the small fish in a big pond, and I didn't like it, and I didn't understand it, and it didn't make sense to me. A lot of these other guys were more experienced with things like girls and drinking and smoking, and they were bigger and stronger, and they were shaving, and I was none of those things. I was a chubby little boy with glasses and braces. And all of a sudden everything changed, and I felt like my friends kind of ditched me. They started to be more interested in these newer, cooler guys, and I didn't like that, and I didn't understand that. And inwardly the kind of confusion and shock turned to anger and frustration. And instead of submitting and following the cool guys, I defiantly isolated myself, and I spent a year very lonely and angry and confused. I literally remember at break time being on my own, because I wouldn't be with those guys because they were the cool guys, and I wouldn't be with those guys because they were the nerds. It's very judgmental, I know. So I was just on my own, and outwardly I pretended like that was okay, but inwardly I was like, what the hell is going on here? Why did no one warn me about this shit? Why is this happening to me? And towards the end of that year, I found a solution. At the same time I found alcohol, I found another substance, and those two together became my fix and my solution, and they worked for me, and they allowed me to stop worrying so much about what other people thought of me, and I became this kind of drunk, clown idiot at parties, and I eventually started getting invited to parties because that was who I was. I was Dave the drunk, Dave the clown, and it kind of got me it got me into the group I wanted to get into. An iconic moment for me was Stannis 7. I was 14 years old. I took an empty 1 liter bottle and I filled it with every single spirit I could find from my dad's liquor cabinet. I mean, all different kinds. And we went to a shopping mall that night and I drank most of it. I mean, this is a 14-year-old boy. I remember for about an hour I felt amazing. I talked to a girl I had a crush on. I could do things that I couldn't do on my own. Alcohol did for me what I could not do for myself. But unfortunately, an hour after that, I was projectile vomiting in a bathroom for about 2 hours. That night, I ended up being kind of pinned up against a wall while my friends sang school songs begging for beer money. And the prefect of my school happened to see that, and I got called into the headmaster's office on that Monday morning and threatened with expulsion. But the issue was handed over to the prefect body, and besides kind of the usual, schoolboy ritualistic punishments, nothing much came of it, except it got me this reputation. It got me this negative attention, and I liked it. And I became Dave, the guy who would go to the party on Saturday night and drink till he threw up. And it allowed me to take away that feeling of loneliness and anger and all of this, but I was still very confused. And high school continued, and I was an underachiever of note. I mean, very lost, didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I never excelled at sports because I was too lazy. I never excelled at academics because I was too lazy. I basically just lived to change the way I felt, because during the week I felt bored, unsatisfied, disillusioned, but I knew that come the weekend I could smoke and drink and change the way I felt, and everything would start to make sense. And I just scraped by in matric, and then I got accepted at a university in Cape Town on my standard 9 marks. So matric for me was just a joke. I started bunking classes and being rude to teachers. And it's funny, I saw on Facebook the other day there was a picture of my school friends who had been there from grade 1 to matric, and I was one of those boys, but I wasn't in the photo because I didn't care about anything to do with school. I was resentful towards school. I wanted to get out of school, and Cape Town and UCT was like this escape for me. I didn't know what business science was, but I just knew that it was away from Johannesburg, away from my family who were controlling me, and it was just an escape for me. And that first week of Cape Town, everything changed because they had orientation week, and for the first time in my life I could drink every single night of the week. There'd been a few times on holidays and stuff, but this was like prolonged drinking, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. But when other guys stopped drinking after that week, I remember 30 days straight, I would go out every night and drink. It was like there was this novelty, and it was amazing, and I loved it. And I felt free and alive and excited. But it wasn't about getting a degree, and it wasn't about moving on with my life. It was again about just satisfying this need to change the way I felt. Something important happened to me at that point. I wrote my matric essay on why I did not believe in God. I was very arrogant and very scientifically minded and thought like God and religion was for sissies. But I kind of, looking back, I know it was, I went into some kind of psychosis after smoking a lot of the substance. And I know now it was some kind of psychosis, but what happened to me there is as I entered into a place where I felt very dark again. It was different to anything I'd felt again. I felt dark and lonely and confused. I'd watched a movie called The Exorcist, and I struggle to talk about it. It sounds so silly, but for me, I watched it with these friends in this dark room in Cape Town, and for them they were fine, but after that movie I was not fine. My mind had been opened up that there was more to this world than just meets the eye. And for about a week I was very cold and dark and confused. I didn't know what I was experiencing inside. I couldn't sleep properly at night. Every time I tried to sleep I had these grotesque images in my head, and I didn't ask anyone for help because I was too ashamed to admit that I was struggling. And eventually after 10 days I called out for help, and my friend my friend phoned his mother, and she got a minister in the church to come and visit me, and he had this explanation what had happened to me, but that's irrelevant. But what happened is that introduced me to this like spiritual journey, which I've been on ever since, and that's kind of when I started connecting with God. God brought me a sense of comfort and relief, and I wanted more of that. And despite the fact that I'm only a year sober, I've been searching for that since the time I was 18. Anyway, let's keep going. I mean, all this time my parents are kind of watching me, my family's watching me kind of fall apart bit by bit, because I managed to pass my first year of university, but then I dropped out, tried to do another degree in film and media studies, but by this time I was smoking marijuana every day, thinking I was going to be the next Quentin Tarantino, just like sitting at home writing screenplays, thinking I was writing screenplays, but I wasn't writing anything of any substance, but like caught up in this delusion that I was going to be like this amazing, grandiose, like I was going to be successful. But I was delusional, and I didn't put in the action, and I dropped out of that degree, and then by this time my parents were like, well, what the hell's David going to do with his life? Both my sisters have got their degrees, and I tried film school, and I dropped out of that very shortly because I just was too fearful to be around people, to go in every day and do the work and meet people. It was just easier to sit at home and drink and take substances and convince myself that everything was going to be okay. But by this age, 21, I was starting to really feel like, well, everything's not okay. My friends are getting their degrees and I'm sitting alone, bunking school, not okay. I tried a computer science diploma after that, and it all went very badly very quickly. The same pattern for me. I start off well, and very quickly I just give up. I quit because it's too hard work, and I just can't handle it, because I never learned to handle relationships, emotions, stuff like that. So now that 4 years in Cape Town was an absolute nightmare, and I got brought back to Johannesburg, and like everyone was like, well, what's Dave going to do with his life? And for 9 months, I kind of endured a very lonely existence again. I would pretend I was going to a job I had and just sit alone in my car drinking all night, coming home, and it was when I knew my parents would be asleep. Pure alcoholic at 22, but I didn't know that. And so I ran away to England. I stole a lot of money from my family. I'm not proud of that, but I believe it was God. I would believe God had a hand in it, because there were a few very strange coincidences that allowed me to get away with that. So I believe God had a hand in that. And I went off to England, and that's when I learned to become a chef. I mean, my first job was a waiter, but I got offered a job in a kitchen, and I took it, and I realized I didn't have to deal with people as much, and I could kind of have a few drinks on the side more easily. And but I mean, my drinking accelerated in England, holy moly. I went through about 12 jobs in 5 years. The last job I had, I mean, literally getting fired, stealing alcohol, burning bridges, unreliable, just a chaotic series of events. And by the end of it, I was waking up with a full pint of lager next to me, because I believed that's what I needed to get through the next day. The pressures at work were such that I needed this alcohol to get through. And that's how I was living. I had no social life. I didn't interact with people other than the people I worked with. I had no real life. But again, I couldn't see that I was an alcoholic. When I came back to South Africa, I mean, I basically asked my parents for help. And I missed out an important part, is that when I ran away to England, I didn't contact my parents for 2 years. That was the feeling of kind of resentment and anger I had towards my life, which I blamed everyone else for, and the easiest people to blame were my parents and my family. And I wanted them to know how hurt and confused and angry I was. And so I didn't contact them for 2 years. My sister knew where I was. That's some small solace, but I mean, what I put my parents through, I can't imagine. I can't imagine, and I can't connect to that stuff yet. But I've hurt them along the way, and it gets even worse. So when I came back to South Africa, very quickly everyone could see the problem. And I would keep getting in trouble, and the easiest way out was to just take the solution offered to me by my family, and eventually the solution was treatment centers. I mean, I went into a psychiatric ward in January 2008, and not only was I put on 7 different medications, but I was introduced to our sister fellowship. And that was how I got into this. And from the very beginning, I enjoyed what I found in these rooms because I had no friends, and I found friends in these rooms. And I liked the fact that people were talking about God. But I wasn't willing to do what people told me to do. I remember my first years in these rooms, people would read out the 12 steps, and I had no idea that I was actually supposed to work these steps in my life, that there was action I was supposed to be putting in, that I was supposed to be doing things. I would just sit around and drink coffee afterwards and try and meet girls. You know, it was just about socializing for me. I had no idea what it was really about. I started a chef qualification and I got expelled twice. The second time they said, look, if you go to rehab, you can come back for the third time. And so again, this was my third treatment center. I went into this Christian treatment center in the Western Cape, and I just did it to get what I needed, to get my parents off my back or to get back into school. Always I was doing things just to like allow myself to keep on doing what I wanted to do, so people would get out of my way and let me carry on doing what I wanted to do. And yet the madness is that self-will was constantly just hitting me against a brick wall, and I couldn't see it because I was so busy blaming everything and everyone else. The fact that I didn't have a career, or I didn't like what I had studied at university, or my parents were too controlling, or I didn't have enough money. Blame, 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 blame. And I couldn't see that I was the problem. I really could not. And eventually, I mean, all of this, I mean, completely like financially dependent on my family besides my time in England, hurting them every time they tried to love me, spitting it back in their faces, angry and resentful at the people trying to love me, hateful. And September 26th, 2010 was my birthday, and I came home after a week long sleeping in my car and selling everything I had, expecting to have sympathy and presence. And that night my dad said to me, you leave this house with the clothes on your back or I'm driving you to treatment. And I didn't know where I was going. I didn't want to go. I threatened them with getting lawyers. You can't do this. I wanted my money and my passports, and I was going to England and I was going to be okay. People must stop controlling me. But I wasn't getting my money or my passport, so I came to the house on the hill. I arrived there at 10 o'clock on a Sunday night, 2010. I met Don, and he said to me, the first thing he said to me is, trust me. And I think I did trust you, but I wasn't ready to change. The denial was so strong that I couldn't see that I had created this whole mess in my life. I worked the steps, but I did them academically. Inside, and this is who I am, I might present an image, but inside I'm thinking, you don't know me, I don't agree with what you're saying. The dishonesty and the incongruency between what I think and feel and how I act and behave is still big, but I'm slowly bringing that back, a smaller gap. I can be a genuine and real person, not a person who is constantly in a state of conflict and dis-ease because I know what I'm thinking is not who I really am. And it's a horrible way to live my life, not knowing that I'm not who I really am. So that gap's getting smaller, and that's what God in this program do for me. But I went through a chaotic 3-4 years at the house on the hill, guys. I was there 6 times in the space of 3.5 years. 4 months relapse, 3 days back in treatment. 3 months relapse, 1 week back in treatment. 3 months run away to England for 4 weeks back in treatment. 8.5 months wanted to do my own thing, relapsed 3 months later, back in treatment. 3 months later, rented an apartment secretly without telling anyone at the house on the hill because I knew what I was doing, relapsed a week later, back in treatment. 7 months in treatment, 7 months in a halfway house. That all happened within like 3.5 years. Yeah, I hit the ground with my car and all kinds of crazy stuff happened there. But it was a slow breaking of the denial because every time I'd come back in, there was one more thing I'd tick off the box, right? So I can't do this, or I'm not strong enough to do that, or this isn't what I thought was happening. But the important thing that happened in the middle of that, which is still a long time ago, but what happened in the middle of that is I wanted to go back to England. I said, give me my money and my passports. I stood up in the group at the house, and after being in treatment 5 times and at the house 3 times, and I said, guys, I'm not an alcoholic. I don't need to be in treatment. Give me my money and my passports, and I'm going back to England, and I'm going to show you that I'm going to be okay. And after 3 months of passive resistance, quiet defiance, they let me go. But what happened in England was so important, and I'll be quick. It's like I had everything I thought I needed to be happy. I had money, I had a qualification, I had toys, and I had a job lined up. I had everything I thought I needed to be happy. I was in Europe, and this was going to be amazing. The first day I went sightseeing, I didn't leave the room I stayed in for the next 2 weeks except to buy liquor. I couldn't stop drinking. I felt so horrible. I couldn't bathe, I couldn't shave, I couldn't brush my teeth. I felt terrible. I knew that the reason I felt terrible because I was drinking, but the only thing that would make me feel better was another drink. And I was caught in this cycle. And for the first time in my life, I had to concede. I had to, that I was powerless over this. And so that was a big shift. A small crack opened up there, and I had to recognize that what all these counselors and sponsors have been telling me for the last 5 years had truth in it. And so I came back to South Africa, and I came back to the house on the hill. And things slowly started to shift. But I was still in denial. Yeah, okay, so I can't handle alcohol, but you know what, maybe if I have enough money, I'll be okay. Or maybe if I had the right job, I'll be okay. Or maybe the right woman, I'll be okay. And every time I would go out and I would see a goal I needed to get to make me happy and to be able to beat this thing. And I would get close to it, but I wouldn't feel the way I expected to feel. And ultimately, I'd just start drinking again. I could never find something outside of myself to make me happy. Every time I thought, if I just get there, I'll be okay. But I was never okay. And so, I mean, I left Scottbury in 2014, February. And then I had a period of, I was sober for, what was it, 13 months. But I was secretly drinking, and then 13 months, and then I secretly started drinking. Whereas in the past, my drinking was very easy to see. Dave would run away in his car and be blotto, and the bank account would be empty, and there'd just be chaos everywhere. I became a lot more deceptive and controlling about the way I drank. But something was changing in me, because all of a sudden I was starting to care more about my family. I was starting to want to be a better person. I was starting to see that I was the problem. But yet, it's so hard to say that I could see I was the problem when I was still drinking. But God was working inside of me, and change was happening inside of me through all of these experiences, through all of these this pain. I was slowly starting to shift and change and see. Things changed for me with my family, I'll say quickly. When I realized one day after I came back from London, is that my dad, my family was willing to risk me hating them in order to help me. So they would rather, I was so angry that they kept putting me back in treatment, because I never went voluntarily. I went because I needed to get what I wanted to get. I was so angry with them before, but when I started to see that they were just trying to love me, things slowly started to shift. And today I really care about my family, and I don't always know how to show it, and I don't always put in the appropriate action. That's one major change that's happened from 5 years ago, hating my dad and literally pissing up against the wall everything he'd ever given me, to today I want to try and give back in whatever small way I can. What happened was, I went into treatment a year ago to another Christian rehab down the coast, because one, I wanted to explore my spirituality more. Two, I knew that I couldn't do a month program. It wouldn't work. But three, also because I knew I didn't have the courage to come back to the house on the hill. I was looking for an easier, softer way. And you know what? After a detox at the same psychiatric clinic in January last year, I was offered to go on prescription medication. And I kind of was like, yeah, we're going to do this, because there's obviously something else wrong with me, because I've tried everything else. I've tried working a 12-step program and it hasn't worked. So there must, this is going to work for me now. And so for 3 days, I was actually on prescription medication after my detox. But on a Saturday night, 23rd of January, I refused to take my medication. And I remember I was all alone, and I was staring up at this lamp, and it was raining, and it was late, and no one was around, and I was having this self-pity moment, and I was kind of crying to myself. And I was saying, I think I actually said it, God, whatever this life is, I don't want it. I don't want whatever this is. I can't do this anymore. This is 10 treatment centers later. This is 8 years of in and out of treatment. It's 20 years of failure and unmanageability. You know, and obviously it was all my fault, and obviously I've never been able to see that and take responsibility for that. But I said to God, you know, I can't do this anymore. Take my life. So I think in some weird way, I did like a step 1, 2, and 3 all at the same time on that Saturday night. And it was so weird what kind of happened internally after that, because when like I'd get told to go and panga grass for 2 hours, my mind would go, this is such nonsense. I'm not going to cut grass. What's this got to do with recovery? But there was this voice in my head that said, Dave, you said God could have your life, so why are you so concerned with what happens with your life? You didn't want it, so what difference does it make what you do with your life? Go cut the grass. And slowly this like shift started to happen. And there were, I know this sounds airy-fairy, but I was getting signs from everywhere, from lectures I was listening to church services, to literature I was reading. I was slowly getting these signs that there is more to my life, and there is purpose, and there is direction. And I slowly started to explore the idea that maybe the opportunity I'd had in the past might have been what I needed to do, and that maybe I can start to help people who are like me, but like do it professionally. That's such a kind of cold word to say, but make a future out of helping people, because I've struggled with being a chef my whole life since I became a chef. I never wanted to be a chef. I became a chef because I had nothing else to do, and I didn't know how to do anything else. And I've had huge resentment towards my career, huge resentment. And this whole year, at the beginning of my recovery, I was saying, I can't go back into a kitchen. I don't want to do it. I've got to find another path. And like I said, so God started showing me there is another path. And I started to think about what really my purpose is in life. And there are 4 things that I discovered: that I've got to have a passion for it, I've got to have ability for it, I've got to have life experience from it, and I've got to get positive feedback from it. And I was like, wait, people have been saying that I can actually help people now and then. Like maybe this is an alternate path I can take. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but maybe there is a future for me there somewhere. And that started to give me hope, like there was something else other than this dead end of being a chef and hating my life and being miserable sober. But I felt God starting to work in me in a way that I'd never felt it before. And I followed suggestions. Like I could have gone back to Joburg at several times during my experience of the last year and taken the easier, softer way, back to daddy's money and back to just an easier, softer life, which obviously was not the easier, softer life. But I knew I had to do this. I've committed to things and I would do them. So after 6 months in that treatment center, through a counselor coming to me and saying, you know what, Dave, and I hadn't spoken to him about my plans of maybe being an addiction professional one day. He said, Dave, why don't you speak to the people at the House on the Hill? Because I know that the people there do these qualifications. Why don't you just speak to them and see if you can get into their halfway house, and then you can start studying these things. You know, maybe that's an idea. And so I gave Don a call, and he was like, sure, man, let me see what I can do. And so he said, come do a month of primary at the house just so we can see where you're at, and then, we can get the ball rolling. And then I spoke to Caleb, and, I got it made more sense to do 3 months. And so very quickly, 1 month turned into 3 months. But it wasn't like this resistance from me, like, oh my God, I've just done 6 months of treatment and I don't want to go and do this now. It was like, okay, if this is your will for me, God, fine, I'm going to take this path. And none of it's been like hard or a struggle or a fight inside of me. It's just been, okay, this is the next thing I need to do. And the last 3 months, leaving treatment in the halfway house, have just been a breeze. But God did something for me which is amazing. I mean, yes, I'm studying psychology now, and yes, I've done an AXA course, and I hope to do a few more. But God did something amazing for me. He met me halfway. He's given me a chef job where I am my own boss. I'm independent, and I don't have to deal with the pressure of a corporate kitchen or a restaurant. I've got a job that's manageable, and I can enjoy cooking, and I can do what I'm good at without that pressure and stress and that was killing me before. So I've got this job, and I mean, just the way things have panned out is amazing. I'm sitting here today, and I'm happy, guys. And Brian once told me that the goal of this is not to be happy, and I know that. The goal of this is not to get something. There's nothing to get. It's in giving. What I get is just like inner peace and freedom, and I'm okay, and I don't feel that dissatisfaction and that dis-ease, and I don't feel like my life is going nowhere. I'm not restless, irritable, and discontent the whole time, always wishing I could be somewhere else, doing something else with someone else. I mean, I've committed to staying in Scotland, and I don't want to be anywhere else. I used to have these delusions of living in Europe, or just like this bigger, more grandiose life that was going to be fantastic and that was going to make me happy. And I know that's a lie. This lie that there's something outside of me that's going to make me feel better. If I can't find what I'm looking for sitting right here in this room in Scotland right now, I'm never going to be able to find it somewhere else. And I know that to be true today, and that helps me find acceptance and gratitude for exactly where my life is at. I've just moved into an apartment, and I can afford it. It's a nice place because I needed a kitchen. I work from home, and I can work from this kitchen, and it's comfortable, so I can study comfortably, and it's everything I ever needed. And God just kind of like puts these things on platters for me and says, Dave, if you want it, take it. And everything's just working out so well. You know, yes, there's struggles and things. I mean, I've just got a tenant for my apartment in Johannesburg eventually, so I can stop being a financial burden to my dad, which is amazing, another gift. And working that all out and making it happen are the big boy adult responsibilities that I was never be able to do before. But I did it, you know, speaking to agents and getting things done. I'm not good at that stuff. Having furniture moved from Johannesburg and all the paperwork and dealing with people, I'm not good at that stuff. But I do it, and even though I'm fearful, I do it. And the result is I actually get things done, and it's amazing, and it gives me the sense of self-worth that I am capable of actually doing something with my life. Yeah. So, I mean, like my geyser burst on Friday in Johannesburg, you know, and like for half an hour I was angry, and I had friends in the fellowship that I could vent to about it. But you know what? Come Saturday morning, I was fine about it. Whatever will be, will be. If I need to do paperwork and phone people, I'll phone people. If I need to pay this amount of money, I'll pay this amount of money. Because who really cares? That's not going to impact what I've got in my life today. What I've got in my life today is a life. I never had a life before. I've got friends. I've got people who care about me. My relationship with my family is good. I was like literally an hour after I found out about the burst geyser. When was it? It was Friday night. My sister put me back on the WhatsApp group that I'd been taken off a year ago, this family WhatsApp group. And I could see pictures of my niece riding her first bicycle, and my other niece on her first ballet lesson, and my nephew's new haircut. And I can chat with my sisters and my parents, you know. And it might not be the most intimate kind of form of communication, but it's communicating with them. Something I wasn't able to do before. It's a small step in the right direction, you know. They want me in their life today, and I want to be part of their life today. And it's still hard for me because I'm not good with relationships. I'm not good with like giving of myself and getting to know people and building relationships. I didn't know how to do that when I was 12. I stopped doing it when I was 13, like healthily, emotionally, like building relationships. I'm starting these things all over again. I mean, I'm 37 years old, and I really do have to learn these things for the first time. People say that, but it's true. I don't know how to do these things, but through the guidance and the support of the people around me, I can get the courage to slowly take steps that I haven't taken before. Just going out for coffee or meeting friends, I'm not good at that stuff. Dave inclines towards isolation and introspection, and I need to do this on my own, but I know that's not the solution for me. It's got to be about connecting with people, because that's how I connect with God. I'm so happy to be in Scotland because there's people all around me all the time. I mean, I've known some people in this room for like 6, 7 years. People know my story, and I like that. I like that I live in a place where I went to the shop the other day and I've bumped into 4 different people, and I can chat with people, and my next door neighbor is someone I've known for 7 years, and I can steal his Wi-Fi. I'm happy to be here in Scotland. I'm happy that I've got the job I've got. I'm happy that I've been accepted to study psychology, and I can put in the action, like order textbooks online and have them delivered to me. I can go on groups and chat about the course we're doing, you know. I'm connecting with the world. I'm living a life. I never did this stuff before. What's happened the last year different to the other times? I don't know, guys. I wish I could sit here and say, this is what happened. all I know is I think it had something to do with giving up. It had something to do with God and me saying, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I've tried absolutely every way to make myself happy. Because last time I had money in the bank and apartments and cars and watches and I was miserable. I don't know what's going to make me happy. So if I shift my whole thinking around it and stop looking at those things and just start looking at the things I'm told to do, step 11s, and just doing what I'm supposed to do to the best of my ability, then I keep getting what I've been getting, and what I've been getting is awesome, guys. I'm happy today, I'm joyous today, I'm free today. Of course there's struggles and challenges, and I meet them, and I've got the courage to meet them, and from a person who was riddled with fear, now when I face fear, I'm actually kind of excited about it. I'm like, okay, I can do this. Sharing today, I can do this, I know I can do it. Or like having to deal with insurance over a geezer, I know I can do this. The support and the courage I get from this fellowship is allowing me to actually live my life, guys. I'm sure I've missed out a lot of stuff, and I hope I've carried some kind of message because I'm running out of time. I want to thank all of you guys. I've got a lot of friends in this room and a lot of friends to come. Thank you all for listening to me. I'll leave it there. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, man. Hey.